Market adjustment is happening now. A lot of this is according to what's going on with Clarity. We'll break that down for you, but there is some other news that is starting to move on the macro side. So let's take a look. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that is iTrust Capital, where you guys can get into your own crypto IRA. One of the best places to get diversified in your assets. One of the best strategies to do is diversification. Go over and set up a crypto IRA. You can buy and sell crypto, gold, silver, all of that available inside your IRA, as well as transferring. So easy to set up. Check out with the guys at iTrust Capital. Tell them we sent you. Get a $100 funding reward just by using our link to get started. So check it out. Let's go over and take a quick look at the S&P. Right now, somewhat flat on the day, but after a red day yesterday and what looked to be a little bit of a correlation, we saw a little bit of a wipeout within the Chinese market. There is some major adjustments, though. If you look at some of the ones that I really want to kind of focus on, and that, of course, would be SpaceX. Let's go over to that one real quick. You guys probably saw the videos that we've covered on this. This is one of the ones that we said pretty much stay away with a 10-foot pole. This is pretty much everybody now underwater in SpaceX right now as we see an adjustment. Here's my thesis, though. Are we seeing a rotation of capital? Do and are people getting out of some of these high net or high individual stocks like a SpaceX, like Micron, which has been a flyer for the last several weeks, and starting to move into cash positions, prepping for other things that could be happening? So just be on the lookout. Remember, guys, we did a video on this right here, which was the Chinese chip maker. And we've already talked about SK Hynix. They, of course, went public, had a little bit of a move. But the key here is are we going to see a major move on something like a CXMT? And if you go back and watch our video on it, we break it down in its full. This is it on Hyperliquid. It actually went out on Hyperliquid. My theory is that Wall Street might be watching this. So do we start to see some rotation into one of the biggest chip manufacturing facilities out there in terms of going public on the Chinese market? Granted, this will be interesting as the market starts to mature around the semiconductor market. Other things you got to look at, of course, is everything else. 1.8 trillion wiped out early this morning. The semiconductor index crashed 3%. So if that is pushing into a bear market territory, I just don't know. Remember, this was down 24% from its peak. So I'm not saying going out and buying semiconductors, but is this a dip that if you are consistent on where hyperscalers and a lot of these manufacturing companies, whether it's PCs or devices, are going to be using chips, are these companies still possibly in your wheelhouse in terms of stock picks? Global chip stocks already lost more than $2 trillion in value since June. This is following a massive crash in the Asian markets, which we had already reported on. Japan's Nikkei was down, Taiwan's TAIEX was down, and then also you have pretty much everything, including some of the moonshot projects that were released. So I don't know. We are in a position right now where things are going to get a little bit unusual, and you have basically two no-name senators come in and try to get Lutnik to hold firm on this ban. I don't know. Was this just a mismove by Congress, or was this a strategic of them just saying, you know, he's not going to do it. He's going to remove the ban and start to open this up? I think he will. The Secretary of Commerce is definitely one of those guys that kind of plays both sides of the fence. One thing to look at, though, right now on Clarity, because this starts to put the pressure within the crypto market, is what is going to happen today. Right now, they've had the big meeting. It's going on, and still clips are coming out. The real question is how much compromise would potentially be done. This meeting, of course, going literally as we're recording. A revised draft is expected today. We haven't seen anything just yet. I want to play a clip from Kristen Smith.
So I give credit to President Trump for entertaining this concept. I know he had a meeting at the White House yesterday to discuss what this provision could look like. And I think, you know, this is a president who knows the art of the deal. If we can get the president and the Democrats to agree on this issue, I think that will break the logjam, and we will be able to get the votes needed to get this bill through the Senate sometime next week or the following.
And Kristen is still on it, saying that it looks like sometime next week, get the bill through. That means something's coming out today in terms of the verbiage that will come into this act. And I think the key here is still is going to be ethics. I just don't see the Democrats weighing too far away from it. Now, could they push this down the line in terms of maybe saying, hey, let's get this through, we'll propose something else? Maybe there's something there in the wings, but I just don't know. And when you look at the strategy that has been played out, both from the Republican side, but I think also from the White House side, I still do not understand moves like this, and that is Trump now planning to sell priority access to Truth Social posts, including his own. The way this works, Truth Social posts, including possibly his own, affecting national security and maybe financial markets. This is going to be called Truth PSI. The new service comes amid a flurry of other deals Trump and his family company that critics are exploiting right now. They're already saying that they're profiting from all these kind of moves. Why drop this right now? What's the reason of dropping what might be a $29.99 deal out there on Truth Social for early access to this? It just seems like it only solidifies the Democrats' position on the scenario of ethics playing into this. So one of the things that you consider that would change the market dynamic, well, there's two things. One would be if clarity drops into the market, we get to see the text for the first time, really, after it's been adjusted. And then at the same time that this is happening today, remember, we still need 60 votes coming in on this. At the same time this is happening, we are now seeing more movement into the Middle East, and this includes refueling. A lot of this could be advancing the tactics around dealing with Iran. This, of course, terrible timing if things get escalated over in the Hormuz Strait and with Iran at the same time in which maybe clarity is happening. Does it get basically covered up with the news cycle? So watch the news cycles very closely in the next couple of days. This is going to be a big one. Because if you look at the number, it's bad. Right now, lowest that we have seen year to date, definitely, and it's pretty much signaling now that it's not going to happen. I think that's the problem. Let's move over to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin ETFs right now could mirror history here around a comparison to gold. This came in from Balshunas, who is a crypto and ETF analyst over at Bloomberg, and he said there's a spiritual parallel here between gold and IBIT, biggest Bitcoin ETF, pinpointing how gold soared in 2011. It spent 8 years in the doldrums. Now, I don't think he's saying that, but what he's getting at is he said that while gold funds suffered years of weaker demand, each cycle had an increase as a high watermark. So what that tells me is that we could see stabilization. And does it and is it in a position where Bitcoin and gold are being looked at in the same lens by investors? What do you guys think? Are you looking at Bitcoin completely different than precious metals? Let me know down below. And would you buy direct access, or would you go out and buy an ETF? Let's go over to Stretch, what's going on right now. Michael Saylor put this out, which was last call on dividend day. And I don't know why he did this, because when you look at Stretch and where this is right now, this is dividend day, and you had that dump immediately. What if you are an investor and you decide to jump in on Stretch, and on the day that you go in, of which they are promoting, and you get a down day? In fact, you're still down because it's only trading at 86.10, where it had opened yesterday at 87. So I don't know if Michael Saylor can do this too much more, because we would start to see less and less interest in the market. I want to also focus on this right here for Bitcoin, because BIP 110 is still on the deck, 22 days away. Essentially, this means a potential fork with Bitcoin with two completely separate camps. Michael Saylor kind of hits it right here. There are 110 things more dangerous to Bitcoin than spam. BIP 110 turns spam dispute into a consensus change that would invalidate some currently valid fee-paying transactions. That precedent is the danger. We should save our energy for threats that really matter. That, of course, is going directly at what Adam Beck was referencing there in terms of the filter fork topic. This simply means Bitcoin's going to have potentially two places, and which one is the real Bitcoin could come into question as we go forward. All right, so let's take a look at one other clip here. This gets into Is Bitcoin finally getting mainstream? Because Schwab kind of said something here that was intriguing. Take a look.
We've been focusing on BIP 110 in early August. The risk is if some participants on the network accept it while others don't, it could create some temporary volatility with the different areas of the network, determining how to treat it. Currently, less than 1% of miners are signaling support. But again, just because miners signal support for something or they don't, different nodes or users on the blockchain could still choose to adopt it. And so, again, we think there's a low probability that it comes to be, but we're flagging it as a potential source of volatility in August 7th when it goes live, if there is contention across the broader blockchain. You know, our job is to be aware of all potential risk, and so it is something that could potentially create some volatility.
All right, so that is Schwab talking about BIP 110. So it's clear that even Wall Street is aware of what's going on, and they're saying the risk is evident. Obviously, we'll see this risk up to August 7th when we see this, this situation resolved, hopefully. Also, I want to go into the scenario of when you look at the two narratives between Bitcoin and crypto in general, you either have fundamentals or just belief, thesis. Many people are in the old camp of belief only. Some people are in the new camp on, traditional finance that are like, no, it's the fundamentals. Listen to what Jordy Visser had to say about this.
Bitcoin is a narrative. It will always be a narrative. It's something that the world believes in. It has been chosen. It has a moat because belief is harder than fundamentals. Fundamentals come and go. It has survived many, many bear markets. So it is in the stage of a long-term acceptance. The problem is it needs money. And like I said, if you've got the opportunity to invest in things that have 5-baggers and 10-baggers, and there's dollars flowing behind them and fundamentals behind them, and then you think about all of the money managed in the world, it's by human beings still at this point that are in the traditional finance world, and it's doing well. So I think the one thing people should take out is that every single thing you mentioned, whether it's energy, commodities, SanDisk, I mentioned Micron, I mentioned Intel, they have one very common thread to Bitcoin, which is those are all scarce assets. All of them right now have shortages. They have bottlenecks.
All right, so what he's getting at there is fundamentals components compared to what's happening in some cases of the market around just belief. And I think you look at his track record, which was really nailing down the semiconductor industry, narrowing that into what's Bitcoin analysis is a kind of an interesting perspective. However, the question will be is how does Bitcoin perform through the macro pressure that we're seeing now coming in from the Middle East, what you're seeing right now with potentially next week on the Fed, which most likely will hold rates. But you've got Ted kind of hitting on it right here. All Bitcoin needs now is one final capitulation, and then the multi-year uptrend would start. So are we near that is the question. When you think about Bitcoin in general and where we are today, that is, I think, the question. Even though I've talked to several analysts here recently, are still very positive that this has an opportunity to go up from here. Could we see that retracement right now? I think that is what everybody's looking at. Ethereum Institutional hits on this right here. SBI chose Ethereum to hold or issue its stablecoin built with Startail Group. We talked about this the other day. If you didn't see our Japanese video in reference to what Japan is doing strategically, this is a big one because JPYSC is Japan's first yen stablecoin. This will be issued by SBI. This is a bank, one of the largest financial institutions there. Why it matters is true, and that is SBI, big group, 78 million customers, so they've got major distribution, and they're holding a ridiculous amount of money in securities in terms of assets under management. When you have that happening and you have all of this setting in on Ethereum, think about that, guys. This is one of the major economic centers in the world, and that is what is happening in Japan right now. Go back and watch our two videos on that. Pretty big. I want to end with this clip right here, and this is from Tom Lee breaking down Ethereum 2.0 and where wealth will be generated from in the future. Take a look.
I believe in the next few years, there's going to be something that people talk about called the uncanny valley of wealth. And let me explain. But at some point, AI could actually be wealthier than us. Yes, I'm saying in the future, there could be a date, and may not be far away, that your agent produces more income than you personally produce. I think at that point, you're going to wonder if you work for AI. Let me explain. And that's why Mark Andreessen of A16Z said that the grand unification is of AI and crypto. AI agents are going to need money. And so we'd argue that blockchain is the barrier between humans and AI.
All right, so think about that, guys, in the sense of how agents will be utilized. Now, granted, right now it's very early stage in terms of allowing agents to go out and do trades for you. But the likelihood of them being able to go in and understand what's happening in stocks like, let's say, Netflix. Netflix, of course, came out with a Q2 revenue, 13%. This rose 12.5 billion, but it fell short of their target. That was the problem, and the market punished them for it. So that's my point, is AI could potentially be out there making trades around these kinds of moves that you and I can't necessarily catch, possibly even forecasting some of these scenarios. So this will be an interesting dichotomy of how this starts to play out for investing strategy. But more importantly, I think it's going to be whether or not you'll trust it. So let me know if you guys will down in the comments. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.